Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Father-Son Packers podcast, your source for Packers news, notes, and analysis. My name is Tommy, and I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my dad, Matt. Dad, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Here recording on a rainy Saturday.
Yep, rainy Saturday, April
area.
11th. Rainy by you, at least. I think we're getting the rain tomorrow. But we are here today to talk about, draft prospects. We're getting to that time of year. We're only a couple weeks away from the draft, which is kind of crazy to think about. But we're here today to talk about our favorite under-the-radar gems. And that was going to be all we were going to talk about today. But then, Dad, yesterday, we get some actual Packers news. The Packers trade Dontayvion Wicks to the Eagles. So I guess we're going to talk about that as well, right? I mean, we probably should at least. Exactly. Because that also is pretty impactful on the draft as well, and what the Packers' plans for the draft are, and we'll talk about that as well. So we are here today to talk about the Wicks news. We're going to talk about our favorite day three gems, under the radar prospects, which we'll talk about our parameters for that in a bit. I think we each have 5 or 6 guys. So we're going to talk about those guys. And then we'll talk about, the other top 30 visits that we've heard about so far as, reported by Acme Packing Company. But before we get to any of that, just wanted to pitch a couple of things. If you like what you hear, subscribe, whether that's, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Leave a comment, leave a review, tell a friend, leave a like. We would appreciate it. Follow us on Blue Sky as well, at Father Son Packer, for updates on the latest Packers-related news, like when Dontayvion Wicks gets traded, or 30 visits, other Packers-related stuff, mock draft Mondays, other content from other Packers content creators, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, that's at Father Son Packer on Blue Sky. So leave us a follow, or give us a follow there, rather. But I guess we should just get into it, Dad, and we will start with the big news, which happened just yesterday. If you're, as of the time we're recording this, at least on Friday, the Packers trade Dontayvion Wicks to the Philadelphia Eagles. This was something that was kind of hypothesized in the Packers, online universe, that the Packers would probably be looking to trade a wide receiver, given the fact that the room was a little crowded. And, but after this year, it was going to be very empty. So you kind of had a bunch of guys going out at once. So it'd be hard to add a guy this year. But you kind of also felt like you needed to add a guy this year because, well, anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. But what were your immediate reactions when you saw the Wicks news come across the timeline? And by that, I mean, when I called you and told you that Dontayvion Wicks had been traded, because you had not seen the notification yet.
No, the funny thing is, I had just been on social media like 5 minutes before, and there wasn't anything. And then I got a call from you. I was like, so it happened in that window.
Yeah,
so
it was a tight window.
Get like a live feed, implant?
I got a notification.
You must have heard it right away.
The world is so starved for NFL news right now that I got like a notification for a Dontayvion Wicks trade, which feels like maybe small potatoes. I don't know. But so the Packers trade Dontayvion Wicks. In return, we're getting a 5th round pick, pick 153 in this draft, which is the Falcons pick for reference, but pick 153 in this draft, and then a 6th round pick in 2027, which is going to be the Eagles pick. So a 5th this year and a 6th this year for Dontayvion Wicks, who also, just for whatever it's worth, immediately gets an extension, a 1-year, $12 million extension with the Eagles. So that's the move in its entirety. If you kind of think about it from the perspective of the Packers drafted him with a 5th round pick, had him play for them for 3 years, and then traded him for a 5th and a 6th. It's some good business, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on the trade in terms of like value for him, in terms of the decision? Go whichever way you want with it. What are you thinking in terms of all those things?
So the first thing is, I did think it was in terms of getting picks, I think it was a good value they could get for him. I've been kind of I'm not that surprised. I was thinking something like this might happen because they're not signing everybody. They weren't going to sign Watson, Reed, and Wicks.
Yeah.
And maybe only one of them. And so it kind of means they need to draft somebody new for 2027. But since they don't like to play rookies, even if they're first rounders,
it's the thing is
they
exactly.
They would. It seems like the coaching staff would like to have a year to get somebody ready before they play, which means drafting him this year, which means there wasn't room in the roster.
You would have had to keep 7 receivers because we've learned a little bit more about the Sky Moore contract in the past few weeks, and it's like there's $1 million like bonus in there, so it definitely seems like he's making the team. And so if you would, like you said, you can't re-sign Reed, or probably aren't going to, Reed, Wicks, and Watson, who are all free agents after this year. So you're not bringing them all back. And so you'd go into 2027 with a wide receiver room of Golden, Savion Williams, who probably, like if he was wide receiver 5, would not have a lot of experience at that point. So a very unknown commodity there. And then you'd have pretty much not a whole lot else. And so you'd have to be playing rookies a good amount of snaps then. And that's probably not something Green Bay really generally likes to do. I mean, the last time was when they had Watson and Dobbs, and that was kind of a bit of a rocky road there when the two of them were forced like into the main spots after Davante Adams left, and those two guys had to be the number 1 and 2, and like Cobb was there as well. It was a kind of an odd dynamic, but either way, I think my main takeaway here is good value, but also I think, and what a lot of other people have said, is very likely that we take a receiver now in the draft. I would be surprised if we don't at this point.
It actually opens it up for a receiver to be taken in any of the draft rounds now at this point. Before I was like, they shouldn't go too early. But I also felt like, just as a side note, like, is this Gutekunst making sure that Matt LaFleur plays Golden?
There's a non-zero chance. There's a non-zero chance. I think it is also good in that sense because it was a crowded room and you have Watson, you have Reed. You want Golden to be able to step into a bigger role. And with Wicks there, that was going to be difficult because it would have been 4 guys kind of juggling spots. And also you want to know what you have in Dontayvion Williams. I mean, you took him with a top 100 pick last year. This was not a like low, like in terms of investment of like draft capital, like pick. This was a guy that clearly the Packers thought very highly of, the front office thought very highly of. And he got 1 target downfield all of last year, 2 targets downfield all of last year. And so
converted if he was a contested catch for a first down.
Exactly. Against the Giants, that was a great play. But my point being, he was not going to get any chance to have any kind of evaluation like if he was going to be wide receiver 5 this year and like battling it out with Sky Moore and Bo Melton for like snaps. And so with Wicks out, it leaves more room for Golden to be, kind of elevate into more of a go-to guy in the offense, which we all hope he can be. And then Dontayvion Williams actually will hopefully get some actual receiver snaps and be able to run actual routes. And you're not just going into year 3 with like, maybe he's something, maybe he's more than a returner. We don't know. So
here's the question. Is Dontayvion Williams just going to be working on his wide receiver blocking? Because
that is the question.
Because they no longer have Wicks or Malik Heath,
or Romeo Dobbs, who all 3 of those guys are better blockers than Reed or Golden. And that's fair.
2 bigger receivers on the roster now.
It is true. I was joking with you though. If having worse blockers at receivers means we run the ball less and pass more, okay, I'm fine with that. But no, it's fair. I think it's a problem, but and I want to put out there also, there is certainly a possibility that Wicks goes to Philly and looks fantastic because like he's flashed at times in Green Bay. There's certainly a possibility he goes to Philly is amazing, and we kind of look back on this. Yeah, we look back on this and we're like, ooh, that was a tough one. But I think in terms of making the decision based on the information that you have now, it's not the worst thing. And also remember, Wicks every other season guy, so he's going into one of his bad seasons, and then in 2 seasons he'll have a good season. So. Because remember, that was his thing at Virginia as well. He'd have a bad season, he'd have a good season. To the pros. Bad season, good season. Like the Preston Smith, the old Preston Smith thing. But yeah, so I mean, there's a chance it doesn't work out. I understand people are maybe a little bit disappointed that the Packers have moved on from him after he'd shown so many flashes. Like I always talk about, like last year he had the best game of his career against the Lions, and otherwise kind of dealt with injuries and was a bit in and out of the lineup. But he had some really good moments with Green Bay, and I think it's just a thing where it's difficult to get that many receivers touches and develop them and, also evaluate them. He was going to be a free agent after this year. You weren't going to re-sign him almost certainly unless he had like an insane year. Unless he went for like 1,000 yards this year, you were not going to re-sign him. And this allows you to move some of the depth you have at receiver that is maybe a little bit superfluous into spots where you are really struggling for depth, like running back, corner, O-line, D-line with this 5th round pick. So I think all in all, it's a good move. There's certainly a chance for it to maybe look bad in 2 or 3 years, but I think this was the right move for right now.
Do you think it increases their chances of trading up?
I don't think so. I mean, certainly, okay. Yes, because you have another pick. And so I think definitionally it would because you just have more ammo, but I don't think significantly. I still think they have so much need for depth in so many places that I don't know if they, and it's also not, and it's not that kind of draft where there's a lot of guys.
I would be happy they traded up for is Chris Johnson.
There's some other players where you could convince me, if we traded up for if Denzel Boston fell to the 2nd round and you had a really high grade on him, he's a bigger receiver. And that's the other thing. If we draft a receiver, I'm 99% sure it will be a bigger receiver because Two smalls on the team is already
agree.
probably more than Matt LaFleur wants, and a third would not fly with him. So that's something where that could be interesting. I think there's some talk about the guards maybe going a little higher than people think. Like Chase Besantis is getting first round buzz, and Keelan Rutledge is getting first round buzz. And so, like, do you maybe move up for one of those guys?
I wouldn't hate trading up for Keelan Rutledge.
Yeah, so there's opportunities there. I also don't know if this is necessarily draft to do those kind of trade ups, but yeah. So overall, Wicks, hope for the best in Philly as long as he's not playing against us. And I think it's a good spot for him. I think he'll have a bigger role, maybe fewer targets. Well, we don't pass the ball that much either, so who knows? It also depends what happens with AJ Brown there, so that's also a question mark for them. But anyway, any final thoughts on the Wicks thing? I don't think there's too much more to get into. I think it's good compensation all in all. I think it makes sense. There's a chance it doesn't, work out where he looks really good in Philly, and wishing good luck to him. Hope that works out for him. But you just need more depth in other places than receiver right now, and this allows the rest of the room to kind of crystallize a little bit.
Yeah, the only thing that I was a little surprised, I was kind of hoping they would go player for player rather than for a draft pick.
I saw people say that. There were so few.
They could have gotten a corner or a D tackle.
There are talks about that. There was it Keanu Benton from the Steelers? People were hypothesizing if you could get him. There's no one really on the Eagles that I think Andy Herman went through their roster and was
think we're getting Carter.
Yeah, we're not getting Carter. But they were talking about it's I'd rather have a fifth than Keely Ringo. I'd rather have a fifth than some of the other guys on their roster. That
I'm sure there are people out there that should have been our chance to get Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, sure. All right. Okay. But anyway, so if we're at that point of the conversation, I think we can move on to something else. Let's talk a little bit about the top 30 visits the Packers have had since the last time we spoke. There's a good handful of them, so I'm just going to kind of go through them, and then we can talk about the ones that stood out. The first is Southeastern Louisiana defensive tackle Caleb Proctor, who's consensus 104. And then Louisiana Lafayette linebacker Jaden Duggar, consensus 329. Indiana running back Kalon Black, consensus 181. Georgia defensive tackle Christian Miller, consensus 47, the highest on the consensus board of all the players the Packers have had in for a visit so far, so that's something to kind of keep an eye on. Georgia Tech defensive tackle Jordan Vandenberg, consensus 246. Akron corner Malcolm DeWalt, the fourth, consensus unranked. Texas Tech quarterback Baron Morton, consensus 264. New Mexico running back Damon Bankston, consensus unranked. Texas A&M corner Will Lee III, consensus 110th. Wake Forest corner Karan Prunty, consensus 456th. And Ohio State offensive lineman Ethan Onyanwa, consensus 343. Dad, any of those stand out to you?
Well, Proctor, of course. So they are finally bringing in some D tackles. It was taking a while before they were bringing some D tackles on. I was surprised there weren't more earlier. Mm-hmm. Miller just got no testing, so that may be one reason why they wanted to meet with him.
Yeah.
So they can't have him do tryouts in these meetings, but they could at least talk to him about some stuff. Or maybe could you please bring all of your tracking data from Georgia?
That's the thing. These days, I feel like the tracking data is just out there, so the testing is going to matter less and less over time, I think.
Yeah. Jordan Vandenberg, who had not been on my radar.
He is very interesting.
Looks very
interesting. Yeah.
Will Lee is the other corner.
I like Will Lee. He's one of those. He's one of my guys.
I do.
Yeah, I like him. I think you think he's a little light, right? You're a little concerned about his size. He's a little smaller.
He's a little skinny.
Yeah, I think he plays the position physically very well. In terms of, I like his willingness to stick his nose in there. I think he plays with an edge. I think he's got good movement skills. I like him as a early day 3, late day 2 guy.
His 40 time worries me.
What do you end up running again?
Otherwise has a good RAS. His 40 time is only 4.52, which gives me a little Josh Jackson.
It's a little. Jackson
vibe.
Was really stiff. I see what you're saying, but Jackson's issue for me was not just the speed; it was his movement in general.
And 3-cone were both excellent.
Jackson, those are fake. Those are fake shuttle and 3-cones. You could watch that guy. He couldn't turn. He couldn't turn his hips.
True. Kevin King's also had excellent
Yeah.
agilities.
These guys like just couldn't turn their hips. Yeah. But no, I know what you're saying. That generally, like as we know over the years, corner is probably the position that is most correlated with 40 time of all of the positions. Speed matters the most there in terms of like having to recover, having to chase guys down, having to like react. So I understand like a 4.5 is maybe a little bit concerning, but I don't know. I still like him as a day 3 guy, but there's a reason he's a day 3 guy.
List the draftees who had a 40 time for the Packers over 4.45.
At corner,
Josh Jackson,
Shamar John Charles,
Kalen King.
Okay, well, never mind then. He's not getting drafted.
I still think 4.52 and 4.48 for those three.
I still think he could be good, but you are probably right. He is not going to get drafted by the Packers. That's a fair counter argument. But Vandenberg is really interesting. I want to touch on him a little bit more because this is a guy with like he's kind of a late bloomer. But he's got a 10 overall RAS, and for those of you who don't know,
number
RAS
one
is out of 10, so like that's as good as it can get. But I mean, really good movement skills for his size, like 318, 6'3", defensive tackle, kind of a like he's got decent penetration ability and really good vert, really good broad. Like ran well for his size, did the short shuttle and had a great time, 4.19. So I don't know. He's an interesting guy to me, and we're going to talk about our gems. I almost put him in here, but since we're talking about him in the top 30 visits, I didn't. But he was a guy that really stood out to me as like, oh, this could be a fun like defensive tackle. The more I watch this class, it's not as bad as people are saying. I think that there are some solid guys on day 3 that could definitely help this team. And that kind of transitions us into talking about these players, unless there was anything else you wanted to touch on those top 30 visits. The only other thing I noticed, like a couple of running backs. So it definitely seems like we're doing our work on those like late day 3 guys.
Late running backs. And Gutekunst said they were going to add to the room.
They need to. It's not, there's not enough guys.
Well, I think they're hoping to find another, Emmanuel Wilson.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, imagine if Josh Jacobs misses time. Like, who is running the football? Like, how are you having a run game? Like that would be a disaster.
I'm going with like Mark Eccles' opinion.
Savion Williams is playing running back. I mean, it's going to be like when they put Tyler Ervin at running back. And it was like, it worked kind of, but it's still not exactly what you want to have to do for multiple games. But let's start talking about these day 3 guys, because I think you have 6 guys, I have 6 guys, a variety of dudes. The only thing, like our main barometer for this was players who are ranked outside of the consensus top 100 on the consensus big board, which is a big board that takes into account, all of the big boards in the space and kind of aggregates them and takes the average of all of them. So our only thing was players outside of the top 100. So that's like day 3 guys. And that is the only criteria we had. We have some guys who are ranked, I think, like lower than 300. I have one guy who's like 103, which felt a little bit like cheating, but hey, if you make it by a little bit, you still make it.
I was looking for one guy who's like, oh, he's 98 now. He moved up.
Oh, I had a guy that I wanted to take, but he was on 100 at the dot. And I was like, is that out? No, that is inside the top 100. Not a lot.
That's inside the top 100. I think also barely. It's that might be the last pick of the 3rd round on day 2.
But anyway, who is your first guy you wanted to talk about?
Okay, boy. Well, I didn't actually put him in any kind of order, but I'll just go with the order I've typed him in. So I went. We talked about bigger bodied receiver. I went with somebody a little bit later, Colby Young. Wide receiver from Georgia, consensus rank 265. In the Beast, he's the number 20 wide receiver and projected to be a 4th, 5th round pick. Spent 2 years at Georgia after 2 years at Miami. 23 and 3/4 years old. 6'4" and 3/4, 218 pounds. So it was a big dude. 9.01 RAS. 4.49 40. His vert wasn't good, and he didn't do the broader agilities. His top comp on RAS is Kenny Galladay. Looking at some of his production numbers, he has an elite wide receiver OPS, which measures a receiver's ability to have both high catch percentage and high yards per catch.
Which is something made by Paul Noonan, which is like a really good advanced analytics thing for wide receiver production.
Yeah, he had a decent 60th percentile breakout age. It had 2.3 yards per route run. That's in the 74th percentile for, I think, all wide receivers with at least 100 targets over the last like 6 or 7 years I went through. His contested catch percentage is in the 93rd percentile, but he didn't rely on a lot of contested catches. Something like, okay, if guy's getting really great at contested catches, he's just getting a ton of them.
Yeah, that just means not getting open. That's translation
Right.
for not getting open.
So it could be that so his getting open, his uncontested targets, we'll say, he's in the 91st percentile of uncontested targets.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not actually getting very many contested targets. So it could be that high success rate might be low sample size on the contested targets because he's avoiding them generally. One thing he showed elite on-field deceleration at the Senior Bowl, so ability to stop, and so that's going to help you change direction, though his acceleration wasn't so great. Looking at the tape, one thing I really liked about him, he's really fights for extra yards after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
He is really looking to break tackles and run through people. He was in the 79th percentile for yards after catch per reception for wide receivers. So big body guy, run after catch, contested catch, seemed to be able to get open as well. Didn't put up like huge numbers in terms of like counting stats for like yards per game. And he has had some injury trouble. He missed, he broke his tibia or ankle in October, but made it back in time for the Sugar Bowl this past year.
It says something to be able to like make your way back for a bowl game when a lot of people don't even, play in the bowl games these days.
Right. So that showed a little something that he fought to get back to play in that game.
Yeah. I think that receiver is definitely, a position now after Wicks being traded that is going to get investment. I don't think it's going to be on day 2. I know you said like it could be anywhere. I still think when you take 2 guys on day 2 last year, I don't think you need to throw another day 2 guy in that room when you already have
technically we only had one guy on day 2
last year.
We had one on day.
Oh, you're right.
On day 1,
day 1 and day 2 guys. Fair enough. Guys drafted day 2 or before.
Let me just jump on that technicality.
Well, top 100 picks right now, you have 4, technically 5 guys if you count Sky Moore as well, like where they were top 100 picks at the position, and 4 of the guys that you picked yourself. I don't think you need to throw another guy in there when you have so many other needs. But I do have another player at the receiver position that I wanted to highlight. Maybe we can talk about the receiver position in general after that. And that's Dejon Stribling out of Ole Miss, consensus 123rd wide receiver. He is a freak athlete. I think he has like pretty special acceleration for his size. So he's also a little bit bigger, 6'2", 207. So not huge, but like good size, good frame. He had a 36-inch vert, a 10'7" broad, so good explosiveness, and ran a 4.36. So he is stupid fast. His agilities weren't great, but I'm not really that worried about it. He also has really sure hands. In 2025, he had a drop rate of just 1.9%, which is like very, very, very good. That's like a hand, like 1 or 2 drops. That's like nothing. So
it's 95th percentile for fewest drops.
Yeah. He played 1 year at Ole Miss this last year, the previous 2 at Oklahoma State, and the previous 2 before that at Washington State. He's 23 years old, so he's a little bit older, but not a prospect that you would call old. He's like 23 and a half. He's going to be 23 for this whole season pretty much. So player that I think I'm really excited about in terms of having the size for the position that the Packers seem to like. And I think has a lot of juice like at that size, and a player that also got better throughout the year. So if you just look at PFF grades, which again are not like the end all be all, but of his 6 best games, 5 of them were the last 5 weeks of the year where they went against, Florida, Mississippi State, Tulane, Georgia, and Miami. And so Georgia and Miami are 2 very good games. One of those being a playoff game. So 5 of his 6 best games last year were in those last 5 weeks. So he got better as the season went on. And remember, it was his first year at Ole Miss, so he was kind of getting his footing as well a little bit. So I think that also says something about, his ability to, develop as a player. I mean, he had 122 yards on 7 catches against Georgia, which is a fantastic day. And then 77 yards on 5 catches against Miami. And Miami's defense was really dominant this past year, as we saw. Like, they even gave Indiana some trouble, and Indiana ran all over everyone else. So good player. I think the Packers need another receiver more for 2027 than for 2026, but like as a kind of a developmental guy, maybe a 4th round pick would be a little high for that, which is kind of where they would have to take Stribling, but I like him. Any thoughts on the receiver position or Stribling, or, just wherever you want to go with it?
Yeah, I also like Stribling. He's one of about what I have maybe single digit receivers that have like marked in green.
Mm-hmm.
That have being like passing on, being good enough and enough of the metrics. His yards per route run were pretty good too, 2.15, which is in like the 66th percentile So
Yeah. And, if you look at the Beast,
productive.
which is something everyone should look at, Dane Brugler has some critiques of him, which are not a super versatile route tree. Apparently, according to Brugler, mostly hitches and goes were 57% of the routes he ran. But it sounds like, based on reports from the team, that he's considered to be a smart guy. And that's just kind of the offense they were running.
Yeah. And he also has a pretty good, wide receiver OPS as well. What is it? 86th percentile. So
yeah, he's a fun player to watch too, because he'll catch the ball and he's kind of a little lankier, and then he'll just hit the gas and oh, he just ran by 3 people. I didn't think he'd be able to do that with his long legs. But anyway, who's the next player you had?
I'll go to the tight end group because I think we're probably going to add one.
Yeah, it feels like we need to. It definitely feels like the end of last year. It was okay, I mean, we've talked about this many times. Darian Kennard was playing tight end at the end of the year.
Yep.
That's how desperate we were for any kind of tight end snaps.
Yeah, so I'll start with the guy who's based more of a pass catcher, John Michael Gillenborg.
Mm-hmm.
Consensus 217. In the Beast, he's the number 26 tight end, and projection to be around a 7th rounder, or maybe even UNFA.
Tight end out of Wyoming, for reference.
Right, 4 years, but played 4 years at Wyoming. He's 23.7 years old. I don't know what date that's at because it's 23.71. That must be a very particular day.
There are a good amount of older prospects this year.
Yeah. He's 6'5" and 3/4, 249 pounds, a RAS of 9.76. Elite speed, elite jumps, elite agility. He actually compares very favorably with Kraft in size, speed, and agility. This kind of this seems to be the sweet spot. Guys who are about 6'5", about 250 pounds. His top 5 comps in mock draftable include both Kraft and Musgrave,
which is so funny because if you watch Kraft and Musgrave, the fact that Musgrave is an elite athlete is so odd to me because I feel like he looks so awkward whenever he has to do anything athletic. I get he runs in a straight line very fast.
He can run
everything
fast,
else,
but
yes,
he's in danger of falling over
at any moment if he has to turn.
Makes him
at
look
all.
very unathletic.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
His on-field speed at the Senior Bowl was above average, and his acceleration was elite. He actually had the 3rd best on-field acceleration all time for tight ends at the Senior and Shrine Bowls out of 112 players. Primarily a pass catcher. He's in run blocking. He is 290th out of 297 tight ends.
It's not great.
Qualifying.
Could be better.
He's right about average in pass blocking, so that's better than his run blocking. It's kind of
I suppose.
whatever, almost 60 is 59 or something. And one thing he does, I think he shows a little bit of some good body control, even a little bit of wiggle in the open field. And he's kind of middle of the pack in all qualifying tight ends in both yards after catch and yards per route run. So I think he's showing actually some decent productivity. He does a little bit of body catching sometimes, so he can also pluck it out of the air.
Mm-hmm.
And can change direction and open up space and get some separation with speed.
Yeah,
with the ball in his hands.
I think we need a tight end. And I think the main thing we know about tight ends is they need to be an elite athlete, because that's one of the number one things is overall athleticism for tight ends really translates to the NFL. Production is not as translatable to the NFL as just raw athleticism is. That's just a general thing at this point that we know. And then the other thing I think is you have to be able to do something with the ball in your hand. You have to be able to create after the catch. So that's why I went with another player, and I'll just say mine and we can talk about tight end in general. Carson Ryan, tight end out of BYU, who's consensus 302. Also a very good athlete, 9.2 relative athletic score. He is 6'3", so he's a little shorter, but he's 6'3" and 3/8, 255. Only a 33.5-inch vert and a 9'7" broad, which are both good, but not elite. But had a really good 10-yard split and elite agilities for his size. He's not super dynamic in space when you watch him, but he has good size and tackle breaking ability. Per PFF, he forced 11 missed tackles last year and averaged 7.5 yards after catch per reception, which were both top 5 amongst draftable tight ends this year. He also graded out quite well as a run blocker. He was a top 10 run blocker by PFF grade, which again, not a perfect metric, but it is something. He's a top 10 run blocker per PFF amongst draftable tight ends this year as well. Graded positively as a run blocker 3 out of 4 years, and also has done a variety of things. 494 times he was lined up in line last year as like a traditional tight end, but also 220 snaps in the slot, so he has a bit of versatility to his game. So that's why I liked him. He's like not like the 11 forced missed tackles make you think he's like this crazy, like stupid athlete in space. And I wouldn't say he's that. He's a bit more of like a hard to bring down, takes two guys, like is going to carry a guy with him rather than like really throw a guy off of him like Kraft can or make a man miss like some other tight ends can. But he's still a load in space. He's a pretty good blocker. And I think he would be a really nice complementary tight end too, as like a 7th rounder, 6th rounder type guy.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, Gillenberg is more of a making guys miss kind of tight end rather than running. The guy who, I felt like Colby Young was actually the guy who was running over people and breaking a ton of tackles from the receiver position, even more than the tight ends I looked at. I could go with my other tight end. I have another one who I basically a completely different style. This guy's really a blocker and is getting some buzz actually as a blocking tight end. Will Kuzmarek from Ohio State, consensus 188. And when I first started looking at him, he was like 320 or something a month ago. And now he's in the number 7 tight end expected to go in the 4th round, according to the Beast. 2 years at Ohio State after 2 years at Ohio University. 23.2 years old, little eager. 6'5" and 5/8, 261 pounds. RAS is not as high, 7.92. His agility kind of killed him when he added that on there. Decent speed for his size, 4.74 40. He mostly tested well, except for the below average agilities. And that kind of shows up on tape a little bit. I feel like he is a little bit lumbering. Looks a little heavy. His top comp on RAS are Cole Kmet and Brevin Spanford. And I think Mo Alley Cox was on there as well, a couple spots down. On the field at the Senior Bowl, he had above average speed, acceleration, and deceleration. And looking at some of his PFF grades, he was in the 91st percentile for run blocking grade for tight ends last year. And also was like the 80th percentile for pass blocking grades for tight ends.
And that's the thing. I think as a tight end too, you need to be more versatile. Like you need to be able to do multiple things. Because like most of the time you're going to be in there to block. Like, because you're going to be in there for heavy personnel when the team is running the ball. Like, you're not going to be in there 11 personnel. But hey, if you need to fill in as the tight end 1, then you're going to need to be doing a little bit more. So I do think there's that. There was another tight end I looked at too, Matthew Hibner, who I thought was interesting. He's not as much of a tackle breaker, but he's like very fast in space. And he also lined up a lot at fullback, in line, and in the slot. So he's very versatile. He was another guy I kind of thought of. But I do think overall, the team needs a tight end too.
Yeah. And I feel like they need somebody who can do some blocking. And Kuzmarek is not a tackle breaker. He is a catch the ball and probably kind of fall down.
Well, it was like, was it Jason Witten one year averaged like a yard after contact or a yard after catch per attempt? And someone was like, he's more than a yard tall. How is that possible? He could just fall down.
Yeah. So he has good hands. He has like 0 drops over the last 2 years, but of course only 27 targets and only 3 out of 85 targets for his career.
Yeah. He's a role player, like blocking tight end, mostly.
Yeah, and so for players who had at least 17 targets last year for tight ends, he had the 3rd highest catch percentage out of 93 tight ends. And I also had him winning all 4 of his one-on-one reps that I saw at the Senior Bowl, which are basically all red zone. So I think he may have some red zone potential, Cut in front of the defender, box guy out, catch the ball in the end zone.
And kind of
you don't have to get any extra yards.
Exactly. And so I do think that's another thing to talk about because Romeo Doubs was probably the Packers' best red zone target. And so I do think there's going to be a little bit of a void there. And the question is that filled by a new player coming onto the roster? Is that something where another player steps up on the roster? I'm not sure, but I do think that is something that is not going to be there as much. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, since we're talking about tight ends, you see these other teams like the Rams and the Seahawks going to these more heavy sets with 12 personnel, 13 personnel. Do you think that is a chance? Because like we've seen like kind of the Shanahan tree, kind of they all kind of end up going in the same direction eventually. Do you think that's something where the Packers end up taking a tight end maybe higher than we think and start going into, hey, we're going to do more 12 personnel, 13 personnel stuff like these other teams? Or do you think maybe that would be a disservice to the wide receiver talent on the roster?
Like right now, I feel like I would much rather see Watson, Reed, and Golden all on the field at the same time rather than an extra tight end.
That is 100% fair. Yes. I think I'm in agreement too. I just thought it was a question that like popped into my head.
Yeah, guys that might take or potentially go earlier are guys like Roush for Stanford, who is a tackle breaker.
Roush is interesting to me. I like him a lot. People like Delp a lot out of Georgia as like a very versatile tight end. Yeah, he's like 87th now. He was like 150th earlier, I think. I do think tight end is. I think I would be surprised if we don't take a tight end. I would not be surprised if we take a tight end higher than people think.
Yeah, because you figure they're going to take one because they're got to re-sign Kraft for big money, and
Kraft,
because of that, they won't be keeping Musgrave.
And Kraft, we'll see how he comes into this year, like knocking the rust off and stuff. And we saw at the end of last year when Fitzpatrick went down too. It felt like the offense like really was like struggling to find a guy to like take those snaps, and it ended up being Kennard. But I thought it was interesting. But anything else in the tight end position? Because I wanted to talk about running backs next, because I kind of did this exercise by going through positions and looking at my favorite late round players at the positions that I thought the Packers needed the most. And running back was actually where I started. And the player I ended up with there was a player that's not on a lot of lists, but his name is Miles Montgomery, running back at a University of Central Florida. He's not ranked on the consensus big board. He is in the Beast because everyone's in the Beast. But good athlete, a bit small. So he's almost 5'10". He's a touch under 5'10", 205, but ran a 4.44, 37-inch vert, 10'4" broad. Agilities aren't great, but that's not the end of the world. He's a bit of a linear athlete, but that's okay, I think. I just think he has a lot of juice with decent size for his height. Like, he's still 205 at like a touch under 5'10", so the BMI is okay. Bad agilities don't really show up to me when I watch him. He just has a ton of pop. And I think he's a guy you could get in the 6th or 7th round, maybe in UDFA. And I think he could be like another guy in that room to, I would say challenge the rest of the guys there and maybe make a fight for that like running back 2, running back 3 spot. And we don't even really know what's going to end up happening with Marshawn Lloyd. We don't know when he's like, if he's going to even be a player. Montgomery played 2 years at Cincinnati, then 2 years at UCF. One of his years at Cincinnati, he averaged over 5 yards after contact per attempt, which is pretty nuts. He averaged 4.9 total yards per carry this past season, which is pretty good. Had several good games. Had a 100-yard game against Kansas. Had an 80-yard game against Oklahoma State. Just had a pretty overall, good year with UCF rather. And I think he has a lot of traits that are exciting for the position. Yeah,
he would be. It's looking at him, the fastest running back on the team under Gutekunst, except for Tyler Irvin.
Yeah. Tyler Irvin was a fun player. He was a fun player for Green Bay.
Yeah, so he was 4.41. The next fastest running back they've either signed or drafted is Marshawn Lloyd.
I was going to say it's got to be Lloyd. Lloyd's got some speed.
And then behind him is Aaron Jones at 4.49.
Yeah. But so, because I do think running back's a need. And Brian Gutekunst talked about needing to fill out that room more. I think you had a running back too as well, right?
Yeah, so I might as well jump to my running back. Another very late, Dean Connors, running back, consensus 340.
AKA the Tasmanian Devil. This guy has the shortest legs and longest torso I've ever seen on a running back.
He's number 24 running back in the Beast, projected to be an undrafted free agent. And I first got interested in early on in the draft process, before we even knew that Emmanuel Wilson wasn't coming back. It's like, okay, they're probably going to want to add somebody like 7th rounds. Who's left in my early drafts that's a running back? And so I was just looking, okay, how many yards is this guy getting before any testing had even started? Because I didn't want somebody's averaging less than 4 yards per carry in college. Like, no,
that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell for me.
A three at that number in college is just not good enough. I don't think you're going to cut it. So that's how I started picking him as a late rounder. He's did 1 year at Houston after 3 at Rice and also 1 in community college. He's 5'11 and 3/8, 208 pounds. Very similar in size to Jones, who is also, 208 or 209 and a little shorter. So he's also kind of similar to Montgomery in size. He has very good RAS, 9.7. Good speed at 4.45. So I think it's like just a tick behind Montgomery. And it would also make him the fastest except for Tyler Irvin. He's elite for both jumps and also for the 3-cone. And plus pretty good in the short shuttle. His top 2 comps on RAS are Tevin Coleman and Tyrone Tracy, which, both those guys have been productive in the league.
Yeah. Tyrone Tracy was one of your favorite players coming into that draft.
I really liked him, coming out as a converted wide receiver, converted to running back.
He's had a nice couple of years. He's been solid for the Giants. Like, he's been a nice number 2.
I mean, they got a whole year starting out of him.
That's true.
Connors averaged 5.3 yards per carry for his career, 4.9 last year at Houston for 980 yards. He's also had 6 rushing touchdowns and caught 3 touchdowns for his career. He's had 22 rushing and 9 receiving touchdowns.
He turns the corner pretty well. Like he's got some good breakaway speed.
He's got good break. Yeah, you see, get some.
He can get into 4th, 5th gear.
Go downfield,
like coming around the corner. Yeah,
and he also catches the ball. He's had 34 or more passes each of the last 3 years. Over 1,000 yards receiving for his career. And he was 11th in the class of 2026 in receiving grade out of running backs out of 97 players.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the downside, he has short arms. They're less than 30 inches long.
Yeah.
And while he only had he had 5 fumbles in 2024. So that was a lot. But he did fix it in 2025 with only 1. And he only had 1 in 2023. So maybe that was just fluky.
Yeah. And the thing with Montgomery, since we're just talking about these running backs, he is not as big of a factor in the passing game as Connors. But he did have 180 receiving yards this past year at UCF. It was his only year with more than 70. So it's definitely like kind of a newer thing for him. But there is some kind of signs that he's able to do that and work in space. The other thing is he has not been good at pass blocking the last 3 years. And so that's something where that could be a frame thing where he is just a smaller guy, and that might just be something he can never get good at. But at the same time, Sermon's the running back coach for the Packers, was able to coach Aaron Jones up into a like serviceable to above average pass protector, despite him not being that good at that in college and being a smaller guy as well. So I think at that point, you just got to trust your coaching staff to like develop that trait. But that is a question mark there.
Yeah, Connors is also not good at blocking.
Yeah, it's these smaller guys. It's just not. And also college running backs are generally not very good at pass protection, and they need to get better at it in the pros. So that's one of those things where I think it's able to be taught, And you know what they say? You don't need to win. You just need to lose slowly. But yeah, so I do think a running back is necessary. The one they met with, Kellen Black out of Indiana, I'm not the biggest fan of. He is really small. Like he is really, really small. Have you looked at his like dimensions? He's like 5. He's like barely over 5'8", I think. It's like he's like a touch over. Here, let me pull this up. He is he's 5'9.5". So not the biggest guy, which actually he's about the same size as Montgomery. He looks smaller out there though. Maybe it's because he's so wide. But either way, so it seems like smaller running backs though are on the table there. Is I guess my takeaway from them meeting with Black at Indiana. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting takeaway there from that top 30 visit.
Yeah. So I think they are looking at running backs, we'll see if they end up drafting one or just signing an UDFA and hope that they get as lucky as they did with Emmanuel Wilson.
Oh, okay, fair.
In terms of signing an UDFA.
Yeah. I could see it. I think there's also the hope that Lloyd is able to give you something, but I think at this point, it's just hope for that.
Yeah, it's just hopium right now. It's not something. This is one of those where hope is not a plan.
No, it is not. My next player is the highest of the consensus players I have, and we did talk about him briefly already, but I just really like this player, and this is Caleb Proctor, the defensive tackle out of Southeast Louisiana, who the Packers had in for a top 30 visit. Really good athlete, over a 9 RAS. A bit on the smaller side. He's only like 6'2", 290, but great 10-yard split, great 40, great vert, great broad for his size. Just has a ton of juice, and when you watch players at lower levels of competition like Southeast Louisiana, you want to see how they're able to play when they have to play against these bigger colleges. And man, he gave LSU fits. And the thing you got to keep in mind is when these smaller school guys go to play these bigger school, teams, not only are they playing against competition they usually don't play against, not only are they playing against players they better than any player they probably play against in practice every day, they're also very obviously the best player on the other team, and they're going to get doubled by these players who are better than any player they've played previously. And in that game, he had 3 pressures, 2 sacks, and 5 stops. Like, he was very, very disruptive in that game, which you want to see. And I think his stock is only rising. I would not be surprised if he's a late day 2 guy in the end. I think he's had meetings with several teams, I think I read. So he's a player I like a lot. He's a player I've liked a lot for a little while. I would love this pick for the Packers if he's there for them in the 4th. And I don't expect him to be, but I would love it if he was. And he's a D tackle. I know we need more of a nose tackle guy, and he's definitely not that. But I think we need more pass rush in general, and I think he would help with that.
So if they draft somebody like Proctor in like whatever 3rd or 4th round, what do you think that means for
Wyatt? Probably no extension,
right? Because he's a kind of that style player. He's a penetrating pass
rusher. I don't know if a day 3 pick.
Stuffer.
I don't know if a day 3 pick makes that decision for you, though. I think if you draft him and he's
good
good right away, well, you hope he is, but it's a day 3 pick. Like, just because you draft Brinson doesn't mean you're not, keeping Wyatt. Just because you draft Carl Brooks doesn't mean, like, I think there's enough space there right now. Like, where a day 3, like, they need depth as well. Because I don't think Carl Brooks is going to be back after this year.
Maybe it's more about what they think of Carl Brooks.
Yeah.
And
I also don't
call him the number 3 pass rushing D tackle.
Maybe even 4. Like, honestly. Like, if you want to say...
No, I mean, that's what they're competing for. If they draft Proctor, he moves up to the number 3.
Well, I was going to say your pass rushing D tackles are Wyatt, and I think you'd maybe argue Brinson's ahead of him, and Hargrave on passing downs.
Oh, Hargrave is definitely the top 2 are Wyatt and Hargrave.
Yeah, and I think Brinson's ahead of Brooks.
Well, maybe Brinson is passing Brooks.
I think he already is. He had a better year last year as a pass rusher.
We're interested in extending
Brooks. I would be shocked. I would be very surprised. He's been pretty disappointing the last 2 years. He hasn't been bad, but
year.
Yeah, but we are moving back to a 3-4, so maybe he's just going to be better in a 3-4. Who knows? But either way, that's the D tackle I'm interested in. And I also think that if we take a pass rushing D tackle, I think we should still take a nose tackle like on day 3, late day 3, like 7th round UNFA, because I would like some competition. Like, ideally, Hargrave is not playing all of his snaps at nose, and also ideally, it's not just Nazir Stackhouse as the next guy up. I would like some competition for Stackhouse, so I think that's a thing as well. Did you have any? Who was your next player? Did you have any D tackles, or
I did not end up with a D tackle because I thought about. We talked about this. Landon Robinson from Navy.
Yeah, to Navy. He's a fun player.
He's a fun player. Very athletic. Not a big
fire hydrant. He's a fire hydrant in some ways, but he's a movable fire hydrant.
Not a big run stuffer. Thought about, and a lot of them, the guys who are there, mostly talked about, guys I'm interested in, or they're too early. But there's guys like Capehart, we've talked about a lot. He's a guy who would have qualified for this.
But we've talked about Capehart a lot. I tried to stay away from players we talked about a bunch already. I like the guy Alfred
Xavier Harris is another one.
He's
the Godfather.
Huge. He's crazy huge. Xavier Harris. Godfather is apparently getting some rumors.
Got some red flags.
Yeah, because a bunch of medical stuff, I think.
Yeah, and Tim Keenan, I don't think he's athletic enough.
He was a 2.3-ish, 2.something
2.74.
2.74. Yeah, he's just not. I like the guy out of Texas A&M. Oh, shoot, I'm forgetting his last name right now.
Regis.
Alfred Regis, yeah. Albert Regis. Albert, why did I say Alfred? Albert Regis, yes. I like him a good amount. And
another guy I think is a possible like nose tackle, Bryson Eason. I forget where he's from. And when I'm typing stuff in, I'm not adding the
school very much.
School.
Well, they're going to wear their pro uniforms soon, so it's going to stop mattering. But who's the next player you wanted to talk about?
So I'll go into the offensive line, and this is guys probably it's not that under the radar. Trey Zune played mostly offensive tackle, a little bit of center for Texas A&M. Spent 5 years there. Consensus 138. He's the number 5 center on the Beast. Expected to go around 3 or 4. So he's kind of on the border of day 3.
Yeah.
23 and a half years old. 6'6". So he's He's tall for a center, 6'6.5", 312 pounds. But
And we're pretty sure the Packers
usually go for.
We're pretty sure the Packers want a bigger center. Like
Yeah.
we want to be big at every position, it seems like.
And he also has, some positional versatility. He's played like 3,000 snaps at left tackle and 126 at center. So he's mostly been a tackle
around a little bit. Yeah.
This is last year he played center. Previous years was all left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 10-inch hands, but only 32.5-inch arms, which is probably what
too short for tackle in the NFL.
Inside.
Probably, yeah.
His RAS is 9.96 at tackle and 9.99 at center.
Mm-hmm. We know the Packers love elite athletes.
His top comps on RAS as a center are Frank Ragnow and Creed Humphrey.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
That's all.
Yeah. He was a little up and down at the Senior Bowl, but he only got 3 reps that we saw because he got a little banged up, I think.
3 reps for him, and it looked like on the third one, he was hopping a little bit, like he tweaked an ankle or something, and I suspect he just stopped after that. So he did get...
There was one bad one where he got
beat inside on an inside move. So that was okay.
Back to center. That was at tackle.
Move it
and
inside.
Then they moved him back inside. Yeah. They're like, all right, we tried. We tried our best. I have a couple offensive linemen as well.
He just have elite speed, elite jumps, and elite bench, 33 reps, but he did not do the agilities.
That's those short arms by you is the massive reps on the bench.
For the reps. So let's just keep doing those bench reps. He did show elite deceleration and above average acceleration in the on-field zebra tech measurements at the Senior Bowl. So that's the one thing where even though he didn't do any agility testing, maybe he's not so bad. He led all of FBS in PFF pass block grade for the class of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also 10th in pass block grade in true pass sets. Not as good at run blocking, but basically...
And keep in mind, he's playing in the SEC. This is elite competition he's playing against.
This past year was significantly his best in pass blocking, but is actually his worst in run blocking. And overall, he gave up maybe 2 sacks last year and only 9 total out of 1,800 pass blocking snaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think, we've talked about, I think both the starters and the depth on the offensive line are massive question marks. And I would like to see at least 2 offensive linemen drafted, preferably 1 on day 2 and 1 or 2 on day 3, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because unless you really believe in Travis Glover and you really believe in Jacob Monk and you really believe in Darian Kennard, and John Williams.
Just all of those guys.
If you hit a jackpot on 2 of them, then you feel good about your depth. But I think it's a nightmare if 2 guys go down right now. You just can't run functional offense if you have to play 2 of those guys. Maybe even if you have to play 1 of those guys. The last time we saw Glover, he was getting destroyed by Philly. So it's a total question mark along the offensive line. You need to completely redo the depth there. I think it's I think ideally you also maybe need to trade for a veteran, but we'll see. I have 2 offensive linemen I wanted to talk about in terms of late round guys. Tomas Rimac out of Virginia Tech, consensus 346th. Mostly just for the fact that he is a stupid freak athlete, and he had a bit of a he had a good year 2 years ago when he was just playing guard, but last year he played left tackle, left guard, and right tackle. He had to play 4 different spots, and he was a little bit worse. And so I think
they get advice from Matt LaFleur.
They were playing him all over the place, so he has experience in all those places. He has the size to play tackle because he's almost 6'6" with over 34-inch arms. And he's 317. Still put up 29 reps on the bench with 34-inch arms, which is pretty impressive. Great vert, good broad, great 40, great 10, elite agilities. Didn't look great at the Shrine Bowl at guard, but I think it's one of those things where you just try and get him in an NFL room and mold him a little bit. He's an interesting player. And then the other player I was keeping my eyes on was Caden Barnett, offensive lineman out of Wyoming, consensus 263rd. Also a really good athlete, 9.54 relative athletic score, has over 33-inch arms, so has long enough arms because he played right guard last year, but the 3 years prior he played right tackle, so he has some tackle experience and has arms that are long enough for tackle maybe, so maybe he could play there in a pinch. He's a little under 6'4", he's about 6'4", 316, great vert, good broad, elite agilities, elite speed, can really get out and move in space like quite well for his size. And he is a wide man, and he's got like the old like the neck. He looks like a big dude, and he'll put you through the ground. Like he plays with a little bit of nasty to him. Can get beat on like a quick inside move sometimes, but he's a day 3 pick, so it's like it's not going to be perfect. But I found him interesting as well. And like I said, I just think the Packers need to take like 2 to 3 swings on offensive linemen in this draft.
Yeah, I think they'll take it. I think they'll take at least 2.
Yeah, I think we have to. I mean, it's just
hopefully 1 in day 2. And then like
another
4
UDFAs,
athletic flyer,
like a ton of UDFAs, and just what is it? The Joker meme: break the pool stick and like fight for the last few spots. But anyway, who is the last guy you had on your list for our late round gems?
Position of need. We seem to have a lot of them, even though mostly the consensus is that there's a good roster. But we still feel like we need a lot of players.
A lot of holes. Lost a lot of players. To be fair,
yeah, we did lose, and that's corner. Ephesians Prysock. So I'm cheating because this guy I have talked about before. I liked him at the Senior Bowl. He's moved up consensus 139 now. Number 18 corner, according to the Beast. Expected to go in the 4th or 5th round. 23 years old.
Perhaps the best name in the draft. Like
yes,
on the short list for best
name
in the draft.
Though there was a guy who has a nickname Scooby in there somewhere. At least I assume it's a nickname. I don't actually know.
That's true.
I haven't looked it up.
We haven't checked his birth certificate. We don't know. Could be his legal name. Unclear. We'll report back later.
But Prysock, yeah. So it's good size for a corner. The size that kind of fits right in with Green Bay likes. So he's a little bit tall, I suppose. At 196, 974 RAS. Elite size, good speed, 4.45 40. Great vert. The broad was just okay. Elite agilities, which is nice to see with a taller corner.
Yeah.
Both agilities are actually better than the average Green Bay drafted corner.
Do you think these are real agilities or the Josh Jackson agilities? What
is this that goes on? Are there some people who just like really figure out the secret of training for these particular drills and it doesn't translate to the field because they just hone in on exactly what you need to do?
Well, the thing with the 3-cone is
do that drill.
It's turning fast as opposed to flipping your hips fast. Like, I don't think either the 3-cone or the short shuttle really involve flipping your hips, which I think was the issue for Josh Jackson is he could not flip his hips and sprint fast enough.
What you got to do is you have a drill where, okay, you start running backwards.
They do that for like the like on-field drills.
Some of the on-field drills, but not actually the testing.
Yeah.
And that's what they need is, okay, you do this first 10.
Backpedaled 15 yards and then sprint 15 yards.
Yeah. Oh, he's like, backpedal 5, sprint forward 5, backpedal 5. You have him flip like multiple times.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it would be more indicative of agility.
Be a test I would love to see added to the combine.
They're not going to. Positions. I guarantee you, no one would do it. I can guarantee no one would do it. Why? They're like, you're adding another test?
Go the way of the...
Not doing
Remember there used to be like some kind of 60-yard shuttle?
60-yard shuttle. That's like a myth at this point. It's like an old urban legend. Yeah, no one does that. They're there people go there to run the 40, do the interviews, and leave. That is it.
Yeah. His number 2 comp on RAS, Patrick Surtain.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
He was 83rd percentile in yards per coverage snap for all corners with at least 100 coverage snaps in college football last year. So shows some good coverage skills and has good traits.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's one of my favorite day 3 guys in terms of corner. It's like him, Demings, Will Lee.
Yeah, a lot of times they end up with him and Demings.
Mm-hmm.
His Prysock's teammate,
Tacario Davis.
Davis? Yeah,
I think it's Tacario Davis, yeah. Then the other Washington guy, yeah. There's some good day 3. Like, people talk about this class being really bad. I don't think it's that bad.
And there's some even really late 7th rounders I like who have at least some traits worth following. The other play might be a little up and down, like Damani Jackson
at Alabama. Right? Yeah, I like him.
He has some bad reps out there,
guy.
but he has some good traits. Maybe he could be coached up. And let's say Andre Fuller for Toledo.
Oh, I haven't watched.
He's kind of the size and speed they look for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think anywhere from honestly the 2nd round on, there's like pretty good corners. Like, I'd rather wait till the 4th round personally for corner. The only one I really like in the 2nd round is Cisse. I'm not a big Stooks guy. I think he's a safety. I don't think he's a corner. I know he's listed at corner some places, but
but he's mostly safety or slot. It
Yeah.
doesn't fit with. Now maybe they'll pick a late round slot now that they don't have a backup slot.
I think
be
the
like the
backup
second
slot,
corner, not the first corner.
Maybe. It
Another
also
guy-
depends. Do we do? I mean, this is a conversation for an entirely different podcast, and we could talk about for 20 minutes. Is Keyshawn going to hold out? Like that's on the table that Keyshawn holds out,
I'm going to give it more than 50%.
right?
Probably.
I would say 60% he does. Like
He's
that's
like one of the lowest paid starting corners in the league.
and that's a fair argument. Yes, he is not compensated how most starting corners are, and he's going into the last year of his deal. Now, should the Packers pay him? No, that should not happen. But I would understand why he would want to be paid, and I do think that is going to be something to navigate going forward.
Yeah, could get messy.
Yeah, we'll see. A lot of time for that, though. Any final thoughts on our late round gems, or should we get out of here?
There were a lot more players I would have liked to throw in here, though.
I know. I wanted to talk about Crown Over, but I've talked
with-
about him before. I want to talk about like some other guys that I've talked. Like, yeah, I mean, I want to talk
But
about
trying to
Vandenberg.
start on round 4, day 3.
There's too many good guys.
Limited number of
See, well, I feel like there's too many good guys when we're starting only. I was like, maybe next year we need to just go like 150
I did
and later.
think like 200.
Yeah, like should we go like
real
really
late
late?
round?
Because like yeah,
Real late.
I was looking through some of these and I was like, oh, like I like Durant. Like that was a guy that I liked earlier in the process. I still like him. Curry, the edge out of I think it's Ohio State. I liked him. Like I was thinking about him.
I've looked at what's his name, Caden Curry.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't do that much testing though.
No, I don't
But
think he
I was
did any
looking at him
testing.
as kind of a possible late edge.
Micah Morris out of Georgia tested great. Like he might, and he's only like consensus like 240 something or 238 rather. So he's like a guy where you just bet on the traits and see what happens. And he's played at a big school. He's played a good amount of football. So I don't know, but there are going to be a lot of time. There's going to be a lot of time to talk about all these guys, and maybe some of them will even become Packers. So we'll get to talk about them even more. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. This has been our Draft Gems episode, our Day 3 favorites episode, which we do every year. Sometimes we're right. You had Zach Tom one year, and sometimes we're wrong, and those get deleted from memory. I don't remember any of the ones I was wrong about.
I only remember Zach Tom and Romeo.
Yeah, it's the only ones. But anyway, this has been the Father Son Packers podcast. Please subscribe, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Please follow us on Blue Sky at Father Son Packer. We will be here an episode a week for the rest of the offseason, so keep checking those out. And until next time, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.